Hello, everyone, and welcome down to episode number 44 of the Down South Photo Show.
With
me, Brendan Waits, and the guy over there who I've just caught napping because he didn't think we were going to start like that. No, but we have.
We're on.
Cameron Blake, welcome back to the show, Cam.
Thank you. You come back with a thud. I thought you were going to give me a bit of a warning. Then you just started talking. I'm like, okay, we're on.
We're going off the cuff tonight.
Things have changed. I go away from 1 week, and the whole format's changed.
I know. Thanks to everyone who commented that I did an okay job while Cam was away.
More than okay.
It wasn't that easy. I mean, it's hard just to sit here and talk to a camera. It actually felt a bit weird, but now I've got my old sparring partner back, so it's good.
I watched it. I listened to it, and I must admit, the first 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, he's not enjoying going on his own here. He's got no one to bounce off, nothing. But you pulled it together, and it was a strong show.
I got a rhythm going for the 23-minute episode, or whatever it was. It was a shorty. You
did well, and everyone thought you did a great job. So good. That's okay. Right. So
that's the main thing.
I'll apologise up front. I'm a little bit croaky. I don't have COVID. I haven't had COVID, but I've had a bit of a funny coffee thing going on while I've been away. So I've been coughing over my guests, and they've been coughing over me, and it's been one big fun trip.
Lovely. You could have told me that before you came to see me 2 days ago in Ocean Grove, but that's fine.
Yeah. Did I cough on you? I think I coughed on you as well.
So Cam and I had a wee little get together.
Yeah, we did.
Over lunch. Was it yesterday? Whatever.
It feels like yesterday, but it was the day before.
But it's not. It was the day before.
It was Monday. Right. Yeah, we were recording this on Monday.
Okay, so it was great. Great to see you. And before we came on air just now, I said it feels a lot more comfortable being on a screen rather than in the same room.
Yeah.
The same room now is awkward.
No,
this is what COVID has done.
We've ruined our own friendship. I think we can't ever be in the same room anymore. From now on, we just have to talk over the Zoom or over the video.
How the hell are we going to do a 6-day hike together? I have no idea. Anyway,
I can just record messages and just send them. Oh no, I can't because there's no reception out there.
No, that's right.
So we had to talk about that, didn't we? We had to talk about the walk coming up, and
I am very, very much looking forward. I'm looking forward to a couple of aspects of it. One is the getting to be in a new area that I haven't been to before, and I always love doing that. Going somewhere new, taking photos, maybe whatever. That'll be a nice byproduct of this walk. But I think the main thing I'm looking forward to is actually getting fit to do it.
Right.
Because this little guy needs to drop a few.
Well, it's funny you bring up fitness, because fitness isn't one thing that usually goes hand in hand with landscape photography, does it? It sort of should. But it's a question I get a lot from people inquiring about trips. Is like, what fitness level do I need to be? I'm like, base fitness, if you can walk up some stairs, you'll be fine.
That's right.
But I sometimes under and overestimate that sometimes, where you sort of say to people, oh no, it's pretty easy, straightforward. And then you think, oh, hang on, day 2, we are actually climbing up a hill.
Yeah.
So but fitness is definitely will make your trip more enjoyable. If you've got a bit of fitness below you, then it'll become a more enjoyable trip. I thought number 2 was going to be hanging out with me for a week, but clearly that's not on the list of things that you want to get done. But
that's a given, Cameron.
Oh, that's a given.
That doesn't have to make a list.
Right. Okay.
That's a given.
It sounds nice when it's on the list, but
Okay, fine. So I'll add it to the list next time. But I don't know how many days before we start on it. It was about 200 days away, I would imagine.
Let's have a look. I reckon it's gonna be a while.
Yeah, no, we're still quite a while away from it. So the countdown is on, folks.
When are we going? April.
I don't know. You're running the show. I think it's the week after Easter in April 2023, which is just the weirdest thing to say.
Let's say April 18, does I? April 17?
16?
16. 299 days.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Got forever.
You got 300
beer.
Surely you can get ready by 300 days. Actually, it's actually more than that. It's a bit, it is... It's 297 days.
Okay. All right. Well, so there you go, folks. We've got 297 days to prepare. Now, you're doing an overland track before we do ours, isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm doing one. Oh, I think I'm doing one in September.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm doing one sometime before that as well.
All right. So
I'll be track fit. I don't need to train.
You'll be able to do that thing blindfolded.
I can almost tell you meter for meter on that track what you'll see.
Well, no spoilers.
No, I won't spoil you. I won't tell you about all the good stuff.
we're going to start with my background because your background's got more of a story than my background.
Sure. Go for it.
There you go, Mel. Look, I'm ducking out of the way.
Who's Mel? Who's this Mel guy you keep rating?
I should just leave. Why don't you just leave? There you go. There you go. There's my background.
That looks good.
That's a
classic
apostles.
Classic. That's a classic coastal shot, isn't it?
Especially down that neck of the woods. Whenever I go down there, it's always like really horrible weather.
Isn't that good though? Like, I'd rather really bad weather than just perfectly blue skies.
I reckon I've only ever been to the Some Apostles on a good day once.
Yeah,
and I've been there quite a few times, but it seems to be, it's just that neck of the woods, isn't it? It's that rugged southern coastline of Victoria, which is
the weather we reject, you accept.
And ironically enough, if we didn't get that weather down there, we wouldn't have the Some Apostles.
You wouldn't have. That's right. You wouldn't have it. No. I must admit, the only time I've been there when it's been a nice day was when one of them fell down. We missed it by about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I remember you calling me or texting me. No, you must have called. It was probably before text messaging.
Yeah.
And you said, "Holy crap, we just missed the thingy falling over."
Yeah.
It wasn't one of these ones beside me, I think. Oh, maybe it was that one.
It was the one that's closest to the platform.
No. This is after. This is well after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like 2007.
A long time ago.
Yes, back when we were kids. Your background looks very, very South Australia.
It does look very South. I'm going to get away from Mel.
There you go.
Hang on.
Oh, yeah, you just, hey.
I don't know why my head just is there. So this is the Wilpena Pound. So this is the big basin, or whatever you want to call it, the geological basin that's caused over millions and millions of years and movements of seabeds and all these different amazing things that have happened over the millions of years. But it creates this big, looks like a big crater, but it's actually not a crater. It's just a moving of tectonic plates and a few other things. So, but this shot is taken in a light plane. This is our very last morning. We left this place about 2 hours after this shot. This is 5,000 feet above the Wilpena Pound in a nice little Cessna 208, I think it is. Doors off, two people per plane. It was awesome. We got there right on dawn. The sun was literally took off before the sun came up, and they go out and they fly around. They sort of put you in the right spot to get that classic shot of the whole pound. So it was pretty cool, literally and figuratively. It was about 3 degrees on the ground, so it's probably a bit cooler up in the plane. But we had a beautiful flight. The group that went after my flight, I didn't realize this until they landed. They came back and apparently their engine stopped halfway down on the way to landing. So one of the guys who comes on my workshops, David, lovely guy. He's been on plenty of my workshops, but he's an ex-pilot. He knows how to fly little planes. And apparently they had to swap fuel tanks on the way down because apparently the propeller started spurting, and then I was gliding all nice and quiet with nothing there. So apparently they had to switch pretty common thing to do, but apparently they had to switch the tank over. So thank God I wasn't on that flight because it might have been.
You can have all that to yourself, thanks.
It could have been a sphincter shrinking moment, I think.
That's right. Yes, no, not for me, thank you.
No.
Before we get on to our topics, which we're going to talk a bit more about taking photos out of aircraft. We're also going to talk a bit more about Cam's trip to the Fliners Ranges.
Yeah.
But before we get there, we have to mention, of course, our camera giveaway is still on.
Is this the last week it's on, or will be one more episode?
No, we'll have one more episode, and then in the first week of July, we will announce a winner on a live show, which we need to sort out.
Right. Okay. Live show it is.
Probably on a Sunday night or something. No, we talked about this. We're going to do a live.
We didn't.
We did. Okay.
We haven't talked about anything.
We talked about this in episode 42. Mark my words. Go back and listen to it.
It's going to have to be July 3rd then.
Beautiful.
The date. I'll put it in my calendar now.
Okay. That's Sunday, the 3rd of July. We're going to do a live show, and we're going to give away this, which is the Nikon D5100 with the Sigma 10-20, which we've banged on about for a couple of episodes now. So we're not going to go too much further into it, except to say if you or you know someone who wants to get into landscape photography with a slightly better camera than a phone or a compact camera, then that's probably better than both of those things. So we need you to get onto our social media platform, Facebook or Instagram, and leave a comment and tag someone who might be keen to pick themselves up a camera. And and I'll ship it to you, and it won't cost you nothing.
Can I just confirm that you just said that camera was better than an iPhone?
Better than a phone.
Oh, not an iPhone. You said
not
a
the
phone.
A phone.
A phone. Okay, just thought you might have jumped off the iPhone bandwagon.
This is an unhealthy obsession you have with people using iPhones, Cameron. You've got to stop.
We're actually, it's funny, on the Fliners Ranges trip, I had my cousin Daniel. Shout out to Daniel. He's not listening, but he is.
Yes, he is. He's an avid listener.
He might now because he's been on one of my workshops, and I employed my cousin to be my second driver on this trip. So we had 2 4-wheel drives, and he shone. He did better than I did. I think everyone walked away saying, "Your cousin's awesome." As for you, Cam, not so good. But
yeah.
But he took a few photos and he got right into it. But he took a lot of shots on his phone. And he was getting some great shots, like some of the better shots I've seen out of phone for ages. And the reason being, it was a Samsung. They have a really good camera system.
They do.
It was really good. But he might be tuning in. He's got the buzz now. I think he enjoys the photography. I put him in a plane. He was in the plane as well. And he was having a ripper time. So,
like we've mentioned, hi, Daniel. Like we've mentioned quite a few times, it's not what you've got, it's how you use it.
That's right.
So composition really doesn't change that much.
No.
With the camera that you're holding.
No.
What was the quote you put up on your page today? That you can't buy your way into.
It was a good one, wasn't it?
That's very apt for what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, it was. If I can remember, that's how significant it was. I can't remember what I said.
No, it was. It was good. I liked it. Sorry to put you on the spot, but
no, you're right. I'm going to look it up. It's here somewhere. Skill in photography is acquired by practice, not by purchase.
Bang. Now that can apply to
almost any art.
And also golf.
Yeah, golf. Yeah, you can buy the best equipment and it doesn't mean you're a good golfer.
Take that from me, folks.
First-hand experience.
Absolutely. So just win yourself a camera, folks, and tag people and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing who wins that.
Yeah, same.
And if Mel wins it, we're pulling another name out of the hat, aren't we? Do
you reckon he's going to tag himself?
He already has, I think. Someone's tagged him or he's tagged someone.
He would rather he's on there. Nikon over the Canon gear that he uses now.
Well, I'm not going to make any comment about Canon anymore.
So your Fliners Ranges trip.
Yes.
So for those of you playing along at home that don't know, Cam runs workshops. He runs a lot of photography workshops, and he runs workshops in fantastic exotic locations. Mainly around Tasmania, but he's gone to South Australia and expanding, branching out into the wonderful Fliners Ranges. And as I said on the podcast last week, I've never been there.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to point out, over your left shoulder, that section of Wilpena Pound looks very much like Mount William in the Grampians. Yeah,
it does. I suspect it's the same creation.
Well, it's all part of the same mountain range. So
yeah, that's right. It's all that tectonic plate movement and things squashing up. But they are. They do have a Grampians feel about them. And the camp, or where we stay, is right down the bottom. It's sort of just, where are we? The camp's sort of just over the back here. So it's all sort of a bit like Hall's Gap. It's right down the bottom. Everything's sort of based around it. So it's a very unique place. But we had a beautiful time there. We had 5 nights, 6 days there. We had 6 people, 2 cars. We had spectacular weather. It was just stunning weather the whole time. Almost a bit too good for the middle of the day. We had one day of a bit of rain and a bit of mist in the morning, which was lovely. But it was a great little trip. We did a couple of aerial flights.
Did you find yourself dealing with like quite contrasty conditions? So particularly during the day, which, when you're running a workshop, it can't always be golden hour, can it? So
it can't be always golden hour. But what the benefit that the Pound has here is that there's lots of these little slot canyons that run through the middle of so you see this big round basin here, but out the back, it actually sort of goes like a big tail, and it has all these little canyons and valleys that you can go in. So pretty much my thought of how we run this workshop was we get up for sunrise and get the classic sunrise shot. Either get the rocks all lit up with the alpenglow and all those kind of things. And same with the afternoon, we get the good afternoon light on the Pound and the mountains itself. But in the middle of the day, what I did is I put our group in these slot canyons. So we had a lot of this reflective light. And if anyone watches any of Ben Horn's, our mate Ben Horn's YouTube channels when he goes to Utah or things like that,
Friend of the podcast.
Number one fan. What you'll see, what he's waiting for is that reflective light to come and bounce off the red walls and sort of reflective light the interior of those canyons. We did the same thing. We spent our times in the canyons, and we've got these beautiful old sort of ghost gums and rock formations, a few animals, dried old riverbeds, slate, all these different types of rock formations. So we used our time wisely, and then we pop out in the afternoon to come get the good light around the rest of the pound. So it worked pretty well. And the one day we had a bit of cloud, that worked well as well. We still went through the canyons, but we had a bit more overcast conditions. So it was a bit more moody and things like that. So we were lucky, but that's the sort of general plan of how it works on these tours, is we try and get ourselves in the best place we can at the best time. So clearly sunrise, sunset, you want that beautiful mountain and color in the sky. But when you got some bright conditions, getting in the canyons or in the shade a bit better works for photos as well.
Yeah. So do you find yourself sort of getting to locations and giving yourself plenty of time, like, a couple of hours before sunset and that sort of stuff to find the compositions? Yeah,
I think something that I still don't get how it works, but it's, I guess if you're enjoying something, time just flies.
Yeah.
So we were getting up at, I think sunrise was about 7 o'clock. So it was a nice hour. Go back, have some breakfast, have a quick shower and freshen up, then head out for the day. And we'd head out at 10 o'clock. And before you know it, it was 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And
right. Sorry, is that a moth attack?
I just saw that. Before you know it, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're like, oh, right, okay, well, let's get to our sunset spot. So it's a relatively compact location as well. Like, we didn't have to drive. I think the furthest we drove was about 60 Ks to get to a location. So you're not driving far, but time really does fly. You can get in one of those canyons and easily spend 3 or 4 hours just wandering around taking photos.
Yeah. And I would assume that doing it in literally winter, like yesterday we had the winter solstice.
That's right.
It's exciting because it's the shortest amount of daylight you get in one day.
That's right.
That might even make it a bit more challenging for you, does it? Like you're up against it a bit with sunrise and sunset times.
It caught me out a couple of times because we go and do this canyon. It was like, oh, right, we've got to get back for dinner. We've got to get back for sunset. Okay, we've got to make up a bit of time here. So there was a couple of moments where we had to sort of pull the pin a bit earlier where we were to make our time to come back. A lot of people ask my workshops when they book them, it's like, oh, can we get an itinerary? And I honestly don't have an itinerary. I have a selection of places that I know we're going to work, and I let the weather dictate where we go. So I can say to people, look, we're going to explore the pound and explore as much as we can, but where we're going to be each night, I can't tell you, because it might be, it might be more suitable to be such a place with that sunset with those sort of conditions, or it might be better to be somewhere else. We went to do one sunrise on top of a little hill and it was too windy, so we made it down and went down, ended up doing these paddocks and big gum trees instead. So Daniel, who came along, he was obviously in the other car, and I think he had a few people asking him, where are we going now? What's going on now? Where are we going to be for sunset? And he kept saying, oh, don't worry, Cam's going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. He'll pull a rabbit out of the hat and something happened. And believe it or not, I did pull a few rabbits out of the hat where we got really good spots for really good sunsets and sunrises. So if anyone's looking to come on a workshop, not just me, with anyone, don't be too hell-bent on knowing what the itinerary is. If the instructor's worth their weight in gold, then they probably have a whole selection of where they're going to be and play it by ear, or they should play it by ear. I think if you try and say, right, we're going to be here night 1, night 2, night 3, you can sort of back yourself into a bit of a corner if one of those don't work. So it's good to have options, and it's good really with these kind of things. It's a bit of a holiday for people. So I tell people, just sit back, relax. We'll put you in the right places at the right time. It may not seem planned or seem organized, but you'll get the shots. And we did. We got some really good examples of that every day.
Great.
Yeah. It was awesome.
That's cool. So this time of year, I would imagine it was a bit cooler. So it's probably not a bad time of year to go to a place like the Fliners Ranges, which speaking like I would have thought would get stinking hot in summer.
Yeah. I think it does get pretty warm. So I'm running 2 workshops there a year, June and September.
Yeah.
So we're sort of staying on, winter and then the end of winter, early spring. So we had, I think at one stage we got to about 20 degrees, which was lovely. And overnight was cool. The mornings were a bit chilly, but they warmed up pretty quickly. So, and September will be a bit warmer. I think we'll sort of have high single figure overnight and probably early 20s during the day.
It should be pretty good this year for wildflowers, given how much rain the area is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's something else we did. Part of this trip, we do a couple of aerial shoots. So we actually did an amazing flight from Wilpena Pound all the way up to William Creek, and then over Lake Eyre, and then back down to the Pound. It was about 6 hours in a plane. And that was incredible. But there is water in Lake Eyre, and it's green. There's greenery everywhere. It was quite surprising. I've never really explored much of that outback. It was still rustic and rugged, but they've had a lot of rain, and I think they're expecting floods. There's all this water moving down the rivulets down through the lakes now.
Very awesome. And you were saying when we met a couple of days ago, you said you couldn't. You finally worked out just how big this country is.
It's massive.
Yeah.
Like we were flying for 2 hours. We left Wilpena Pound and 2.5 hours up to William Creek, and we're still in South Australia. That's right. Mind you, we'd driven 5 hours from Adelaide to get to Wilpena Pound, and then we flew another 2 and a bit hours. So that's almost 7.5 hours of travel when you're still in the same state.
Yeah.
Flying over Lake Eyre was incredible. Just as far as the eye could see, it was just Salt Lake Plains the whole way.
Yeah.
And everywhere you look, like, it's funny, you do an aerial flight down in Tassie and you see the mountains, you can sort of see almost coast to coast. But you get up there and there's no end to it. It's incredible.
Yeah. I was going to say that, like, spending most of your time in Tasmania these days, you can't drive in a straight line in Tassie for 4 hours.
No,
you're in an ocean.
That's right. You'll be touching beach to beach, but but it gave me a real sense, a bit of a sense of pride as well, that Australia is an incredible country, and really, really unique in what it offers, and the fact that you can see so far and fly so far and not get very far was a bit mind blowing to me. So. Although as big as Australia is, and as big as and wide and vast as it is, I still couldn't get away from someone I knew. So I actually ran into someone at William Creek.
Yes.
Another big fan of the podcast, Tom Putt. I know he doesn't watch because his ego won't fit in the podcast.
Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, Tom. He was up at William Creek. He had a couple of workshops. He was doing aerials over at Lake Eyre for a couple of groups, and we ran into him at the pub. And there was about 2 people in the pub, and he was one of them.
Because of course you did.
Yeah. So, So that was cool. Yeah, it was an amazing trip. It was really good. It just looks fantastic, and it's definitely on my list, and it will get ticked off at some point. I want to talk about your experience with shooting out of a plane. Yeah.
Because we've banged on a fair bit about drone photography, which of course has its similarities, but of course it's a fraction more safer because you've got both feet planted firmly on the ground. Would you, off the top of your head, would you give anyone advice when they're trying to shoot images from out of a moving plane?
Well, we certainly would offer advice. Like I haven't done heaps of aerial photography. I follow a lot of people do, and I know Tom, who does a lot of aerials. There's Mika Boynton up in Bright, who's done a lot of aerials. I know there's lots of people that have done aerials. Danny Watson, who just won the runner-up in one of the photography awards in Australia, she does a lot of aerials. But I haven't done heaps. I've done lots of plane trips to get to places, but I haven't done specifically heaps of aerial photography. I've done lots of drone photography. But my advice was to make sure your camera is all ready to go before you get up there. Like that was one thing that we're big on in the group, is just ensuring that your camera was set to the right settings before you go. And the way we did it, we set it up at, starting at ISO 400. We put the aperture on around about 5.6. I worked on aperture priority because I knew it was bright enough that the shutter speed was going to be fast enough. And then from there, we just adjusted ISO or aperture depending on what sort of shutter speeds we're getting. We kept polarizers on because we're shooting through windows in the plane in one of the trips. So that made it a bit better for flare and glare. And then it was just a matter of, there was one lady on our trip who I think was a bit hesitant to fill a memory card up. I'm like, just fill it up. You're only going to do this flight maybe once. Let's just shoot as much as we can and capture as much as we can. So all the sort of tips I was giving people, just to look for patterns, look for different features in the landscape, look for different light hitting at different spots, but mainly just shoot as much as you can. You know, don't. It's not film. You know, you don't feel like you can't shoot a couple of 100 shots on a flight. So, and that seemed to work. As far as I know, I haven't seen everyone's shots, but as far as I know, everyone came away with good shots. The one with the doors off, that's a different experience because you've got to deal with, you know, the noise and the wind, and there's obviously that fear factor of going up in a plane that's, you know, you're hanging out of practically. But I think, again, the advice there was to focus on what you're doing and not worry too much about what could or can't go wrong. And up there, I think one thing, like I wouldn't say I'm the most confident flyer, but I'm getting a lot better than I used to be. But one thing that sort of I play in my head when I'm up there now is that these things can glide. If the engine falls off, they can still glide for a while. And there is that much runway space out there. They can land on highways, roads. It's as flat as a tack apart from the ranges. So once I got that in my head, I'm like, well, if something goes wrong, we're going to land somewhere. You know, it might be a bit bumpy, but away you go. But it's definitely a good experience, and definitely recommend people, if you get the chance to go up over a place like this in a plane, it offers a different perspective for sure.
So talk to me about focal lengths that you were using from a height, like so for example, the image behind you, what was that shot with?
So I used the 12 to 100 Olympus lens, which is a 24-200, and that worked really, really well. This is shot at 24 mil. So the pilot was actually flying with the wings out the way, which is pretty incredible. We were on a bit of an angle, not too much of an angle, bit of an angle. He's counteracting with the rudder at the back. So we're sort of flying along sideways with the wing out the way. So 24 mil, and then I got into, 200 mil a few times, getting some more patterns on the ground. The shots that we did over Lake Eyre were probably more 100 mil, 150 mil, just to really fill that frame with the pattern. So I would say, anything no wider probably than 24, and then anywhere up to 200 mil seemed to be okay for what we were doing. I don't know if you go 300 mil, you might start getting some slower shutter speeds.
Yeah.
If you're zooming in that much. So 24 to 200 or 24 to 150 or something like that would be probably what I'd recommend.
Yeah, and you'd battle to change lenses in a plane, like
you wouldn't. If you had to, you take two bodies.
Yeah.
And you definitely wouldn't change it if the doors were off, because there's that much wind coming through, and the last thing you want to do is either get a heap of dust and stuff on your lens or drop a lens out the door or something like that. So if you've got that sort of wide to mid telephoto lens, even a 24 to 70 would probably work okay. But if you've got something a bit longer than that, I think that would just allow you to get in a bit more into the details. Like we said on the other episode, shooting those landscapes within landscapes a bit more. So this shot behind me here, I've actually got a shot of these lenticular clouds over the cliff here. So I've sort of almost cropped it out of that little section only, and that was at 200 mil. So it really allows you to get right in and get right out as well.
Yep. So as a rule of thumb as well, did you keep an eye on your shutter speed? Is there a number you don't want to go under?
Yeah, I tried to stay double what my focal length was. Usually we say try and get close to your focal length, but I tried to keep it double my focal length. And what I did before I took off for both flights, I actually took a bit of a test shot on the runway, just shooting out to the landscape we were going to go to, and just checked what the light was going to do, knowing that the light was going to get brighter as we went along. And when we took off, I'm like, okay, that's reasonable, and I can hand hold that, no problems. And I didn't adjust anything on the flight. I just left it on 5.6 ISO 400, and away we went. And I think the lowest my shutter speed got was like 2/50th of a second or 500th of a second. So it was pretty good.
Yeah. And of course, with the image stabilization system that your outfit has and that a lot of lenses now carry, the image stabilizer can be good for, you can drop it below the normal recommended shutter speed and still manage to get a pretty sharp.
I think the critical thing with that though, because I thought about that, I was having these are the thoughts you have on the way up in a plane as you're climbing up to 5,000 feet. The image stabilizer I've got the 12 to 100 and the OM1, so that's almost 7.5 stops combined. But if you're in a moving thing, then the image stabilizer doesn't play as hard as what it would if you're standing still with normal thing. So the image stabilizer will really account for your handshake. But if you're in a moving object and you're moving that way, it probably cuts down the the significance of that image stabilizer, I reckon, because it can't do as well as it probably would on the ground.
Yeah.
But I think that's where your shutter speed, just maintaining that shutter speed nice and high as you can. So
yeah, and look, and if you're shooting at the right angle anyway,
yeah, that's right.
You can get away with a lot more lower shutter speeds because sharpness can be compensated for because you're nice and wide. So
yeah, I'm gonna say something controversial though. This will ruffle a few feathers. Probably the one Tom or something like that. But like I said, I haven't done much aerial photography, and one of the reasons why I stopped entering landscape awards many years ago through the AIPP was because landscape photography all of a sudden became aerial photography. And it was all these shots of, beautiful spots like out in the back of Lake Eyre or over ice fields or over Iceland or over water or whatever it was. But there was a real flood of awards where everything was aerial photography. And at the time, I'm like, they're lovely shots. They look fantastic. They're beautifully edited, beautifully printed. But in the back of my head, I was always saying to myself, I just don't know if it's that challenging to get shots up in a plane of aerial stuff where you're hanging out of a plane. But I never really said much because I hadn't done it before. But this trip was the first time I actually went over some of these sort of locations where a lot of people go out and shoot aerials. And this is going to be controversial and it's going to make me sound like an absolute twat. But I didn't actually find it that hard to come away with some really breathtaking images of those real abstracty Salt Lake, outbacky sort of pattern shots. I actually found them quite easy to get because I was just shooting at, like I said, about 200 mil or 150 mil and just shooting down. Like you just find something and, hey, that's a cool pattern. That's a really cool bit of color. That's a little bit of a funny mountain range. And I reckon 9 out of 10 shots I took all came back with some really interesting elements within the shot. And then with a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of editing, they came out looking really, really nice. So it sounds like I'm being quite disrespectful for guys who actually want to do a lot of aerial work and do well in awards and stuff. But I think I proved to myself that maybe it's not as difficult as maybe I thought it was. So for those guys who are out there doing the aerial shots, again, their work's fantastic. I'm not taking anything away from them. But I found that maybe those images were getting more recognition because they were quite unique to get because people didn't have the money to go up in a plane or do lots of aerial shots as opposed to everyone else on the ground doing normal landscape shots. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I just wanted to say that I found it actually it was lovely. It was really quite enjoyable to do it. And I understand why people get addicted to it, but I didn't find it any more difficult than shooting my normal landscape stuff, where I think sometimes there's been this perception in the awards scene that aerial shots are really, really quite unique and really quite hard to create. I actually didn't find that. Then maybe I'm just being an asshole. I don't know.
No.
I think you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying, but I also think I know the point. And the point is when you're at a place like Lake Eyre, the amount of beauty and the amount of color and the amount of texture, it's just one after the other. It just keeps coming at you when you're in those places.
Yeah, absolutely. So
for sure, when you're there in the moment, it's easy because it's all just, it's coming at you. Well, there you go. There's a nice example behind it. For those of you listening and not being visual, Cam's just scrolling through a couple of shots that he did.
And look, this isn't me showing off that I think this is great, but this is an example of how just a little bit of tweaking with color temperatures and patterns can make something look really quite unique.
But my point was going to be, when you're there, sure, mate, you still got to get there. You still got to.
That's right.
It's a hard ask to get yourself to a place like Lake Eyre, to even the Flinders Ranges. To put yourself in those positions to be able to capture those shots, to have the right weather, to not have a crappy day, to have decent, calm enough day where you basically, you've got your settings right, you've taken a few shots, you're good to go, and now it's coming to you. Now that is a unique thing with landscape photography. You got to, most of the time, you got to go out, you got to bust your butt to go out and get this stuff. When you're in a plane and it's all laid out in front of you and it's basically, let's go there, let's go there, let's go there. That's, to me, that's the easy side.
Well, it was like, it really is like
photography.
It's like shooting fish in a barrel after you get it. Like I said, once you get there. But I think what happened is, and again, I do struggle in my life not to come across as sound like an a-hole sometimes, but I'm not really trying to do that in this one. But I think
deep down, those who know you well
will know that I'm an asshole. Thank you. But I think what's happened, again, going back to the awards and stuff that people used to enter, there was a period of time where aerials were few and far between, but really unique. And it was almost like the judges went, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. This is incredible.
That's right.
Where is this? What is this? Who took this?" And it just sort of propelled everyone's, outcome of taking aerials to another level. And then the whole, as per normal, everyone followed that trend, and we got flooded with aerials and aerials and aerials. And I used to just quit. I'm like, there's no point even trying to win any awards or get any sort of recognition when you're up against aerials. I can't afford to go up in a plane. I don't go out to these places. And it was the same, rinse and repeat year after year. It was the same type of thing winning. But what I think I'm trying to say is, for those people that haven't done any aerials or haven't been up in a plane or haven't done anything such as that, don't try and think it's completely different to normal landscape photography. It's very, very similar. And once you see that, like you said, like Brendan said, once all your settings are done and you're up in a plane, it really is like shooting fish in a barrel. You can see patterns as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
So, don't be discouraged if you're not getting aerial shots, because I think you can still get some interest. And that's where the drones come into the, making it a bit more affordable for people to get those type of effects. So,
and I've said this before, the biggest change for me, I think, in photography has been acquiring a drone.
Yeah.
And the reason being is that I can now put a camera wherever the hell I want to put a camera.
Yeah, that's right.
Which really is amazing. People will buy a drone and take it immediately to the 400-foot, ceiling level.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
And point it straight down and take it, and that's great.
Yeah.
And I've done that, and I did that for a long time. But what I do a lot now with my drone is I'll take it offshore and put it, 3 feet above the water.
Yeah.
Because that's a spot where you can't get a helicopter to, and if you want to get there on a boat, well, it's going to take me 3 hours to get to that location, whereas I can stand on the lookout here at Ocean Grove and send my drone straight off the bluff at Bowen Heads, and get cracking shots, as I say, 10 meters above the water, looking back towards my hometown, which is awesome. So
which I think is a really interesting and valid point. What you're saying there is that, and it might tie back into how I was being an arsehole a couple of minutes ago, but I think what you've actually clarified a bit more. What I think I was trying to say is that, people with drones, they all went out and bought drones, and everyone did the same thing. They went 400 meters up, shot straight down, and they shot straight down because of these things behind me. And what we've seen over the last few years with all this aerial photography going on, and all these amazing patterns that people are putting out, people are going, well, I can't get in a plane, but I can do it with a drone. But what I think is more interesting with aerial photography is exactly what you said. He's putting a camera where a plane and a helicopter and we can't get to. And that might be 10 meters off the ground, or it might be a different angle or whatever. So I think that's a really interesting point to think about, that if you're thinking that aerial photography is what you want to do, then by all means, get in plane, shoot straight down, shoot on angles, whatever you want to do. But I think where you could become quite unique in your own work is taking those shots that are not straight down, maybe the ones that are a few meters off the ground, because there's a lot of shots around the world that people haven't taken from that angle. They're either on the ground or they're up in a plane. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah, and we talk about that a lot as well, is that some areas, like the one behind me, have been absolutely shot to death. But that doesn't mean that you can't go and get your photo.
No, that's right.
Get your moment there, because, like the shot behind me, that cloud formation is never, ever, ever going to happen again.
No.
That's not ever. So that's a unique photo. That wave patterns, they're,
Yeah.
And to some extent, that photo behind you, that's not going to change a whole lot.
No.
So, that photo is probably, or very similar photo, is going to be taken by someone else as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
How cool is the blue in that photo though?
Well, I'll tell you a secret. It wasn't that blue.
Okay.
So I actually had this conversation with Tom Putt today. He sent me, he's a funny guy, Tom, and I do like him a lot. He suits into our method of humor quite a lot. But he sent me a picture of this aerial shot, which is like a like a semi-dried up water hole that had a love heart shape and a little like rivulet falling out of it. And I wrote back, said, bullshit, that's photoshopped. And it was 100% photoshopped because there's nothing like that. And he said, oh, I was thinking of you when I took this shot. And I wrote back to him, and this is what got me thinking about it today before we had this episode. I wrote back to him and saying, this aerial stuff's pretty easy, mate. Shoot straight down, fluff around with the contrast, fluff it out, fluff around with your color temperature, bit of blue, bit of warm, job done. And he didn't dispute that. Yeah. And he's one of the world's best aerial photographers going around. So, that's what I mean. Like, I was expecting, like, this is the first chance I've ever had to do some real sort of abstracty stuff. And I was expecting it to be, oh, okay, where's the shot coming? I could have done 1,000 of these shots over Lake Eyre. It's incredible. And I highly recommend anyone go do one of Tom's workshops where, you're in a plane forever, or come on one of my workshops where we do a flight over there, or go and get your own joy flight over a spot and do some aerial stuff. It is really lovely. It's a completely different way to look at the world, but just don't think it's as hard as it maybe been made out to be. And I'm guaranteed I'm going to get messages from people who do aerials and call me an asshole, but that's okay.
No, you won't.
I'm willing to take one for the team.
No, you won't. Everyone has their own opinion on these things.
But mine's right.
And can you think of another industry that has as many opinions as
golf?
No, not even close.
There's a lot of opinions flying around in golf.
At the moment, there is. That's not for our podcast.
We're not a golf. Yeah.
Cool. Very good chat on Fliners Ranges and taking photos out of planes and stuff.
Just to let people know, we're going in September again, sold out. Sorry, but I do have two more, June next year and September next year. And all you need is $500 to lock your spot in, and then you pay the balance about 2 months before. But get in quick, because I'm getting lots of inquiries about September, which is sold out. So I'm assuming people are going to roll it into next year.
Yep.
So get on board.
Get amongst it, folks. Dear Cam, everyone's favourite.
Did we do a dear Cam last week? No, you didn't.
This episode's all about Cameron, but that's fine.
It is.
About me last week. So
I'm feeling a bit on the spot here.
Well, that's okay. Dear Cam, this one's a curly one. So I don't know whether we're going to have an answer to this or not, but we'll see. A friend of mine, this is from, who's this from?
No idea who it's from. Hang on.
Sorry, how bad.
Yeah, it's from someone.
Yeah, no, someone sent us this through social media. Thank you if it was you. Yep. Dear Cam, a friend of mine had 13 of her images on exhibition in a pub. When she went to collect them on the weekend, she found that 3 were broken and smashed, 4 were extremely dirty, and 6 are missing and can't be found or were stolen. Her insurance might pay her claim, but won't insure her again for an exhibition. What insurance companies do you use for exhibitions of your images? Thank you in advance. Love the show. Regards, Kerry. Hello, Kerry. There you go.
How good was that?
In on the end there. Thank you, Kerry. We appreciate the question. Curly one.
Yes.
The first question I've got to ask is, if you're putting your artwork in such a public space, particularly a pub where shit goes down, I'm not sure what they were expecting, but anyway.
Well, it all depends.
It's called Dear Cam.
Yeah, it all depends though. Some pubs have like bistro areas that are a little bit more civilized, that don't get trashed. Look, I think
never get hammered in a bistro.
No, never. Especially not Yarrawonga this weekend.
Avoid at all costs, people.
Look, I think I've just finished my exhibition up at Cradle Mountain, which is in a gallery space, not a pub space. But I would have thought that the venue would have had some sort of insurance on things as well. I know where the gallery that I've done and other places, they generally have their own type of insurance cover for damage and breaking of frames and things like that. First of all, it's disappointing that someone would treat someone else's art. I guess in a pub, things do get out of hand a bit, but to go there and find that there was 3 broken, 4 dirty, and 6 are missing, like I'd be sending the pub a bill for the 6
that are missing. It's the missing ones that do me. Yeah, that's right.
I'd be sending them an invoice and saying, well, sorry, they obviously sold and you've just forgot to pick up the payment. So, and her insurance might pay the claim out, but they won't insure her again for an exhibition. Well, that's a bit interesting as well. I don't know. I've never heard of that before, where they won't insure her again. But look, for me, I use my own personal insurance. I've got my business insurance which is through QBE, for anyone's interested. That does cover me for most things, broken, damaged, stolen. I'm not 100% sure if it would cover broken frames and things like that, but I'm sure it would because it's product. So maybe she needs to search around and maybe do a bit of shopping for a better insurance company. But yeah, usually the venue should have some sort of coverage as well. So I'd be maybe going back to the pub and saying, hey, you know, I'm not sure what the agreement they had was, but, you know, there's 6 missing and 3 of them are broken. So nine out of the 13 are kaput. Can we come to some arrangement where you...
Absolutely. I mean, aside from the fact that 13, I'm assuming, framed photographs.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm also assuming they weren't in cheap frames. Like,
no.
There's a fair bit of outlay involved there with getting...
There is.
I mean, as we both know, like, it ain't cheap getting things,
no.
you know, framed and ready for gallery display. So, yeah, interesting one. The only insurance that I recommend is public liability insurance. So if I'm having a, so back when I used to do markets, I used to have public liability insurance. You know, you get someone walking past and they trip over part of your display, or, you know, they hang the piece up on your wall and one of the cables breaks, or one of the string breaks or something like that.
Yeah.
I actually don't hang stuff for people anymore. I used to, where, you know, but then it just put the wind up me when you look at it and go, hang on a minute, if this thing falls off the wall and kills someone, or you know, really hurts someone, who wears the bill? And it would be me. So I'm happy to deliver stuff to people, but I certainly don't hang it for people. So it is an interesting one.
Look, I've been to many a pub in my day, as you would be aware, and I've drunk at a few pubs in my day. And I must admit, I've borrowed things from pubs before, such as stubby holders or beer mats or whatever it might be.
Hey, we're all 18 once, mate.
I've never walked out with a framed image or something.
No,
like, that's a pretty good effort.
It almost would be like a bit of a challenge for some groups of...
yes, it would be.
People sort of, see that, but I'm having that.
I'm having that. That'll look great in the pool room.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it is an interesting question, and it's probably one that we need a bit more information to be able to get more accuracy about our responses. But I'd be going back to the venue and saying, look, you know, did they have an arrangement beforehand? You know, if something's damaged, did she sign a contract saying, you know, we'll take commission for X, Y, or Z? That contract would have had, you know, damages on you or damages on us, or we'll share the cost or whatever. So I'd be looking back through any contract they had, and I'd be trying to get some reimbursement from the pub. You know, depending on what pub it is, like some establishments may not care, but I think going forward, I think her friend might just want to choose the venues a bit more carefully, maybe.
Yeah.
Stay away from pubs, stay away from alcohol, really. Yeah. Because once that happens, you know, you're likely to get something broken or damaged, and it's a shame, because it'd be, especially what's even probably more of a kick in the ass is that if she didn't sell any at all, but lost 6 and broke 3,
that's right.
That's a real loss. So
and four were extremely dirty.
Yeah.
Don't know if we answered that or not, but anyway, there you go, Kerry. Good luck with your friend. Hopefully she gets it sorted out. If you have a deer cam question, by all means, hit us up in the comments below. Send it to us any which way you can, and we will attempt to answer it on next week's show. Cam, what have you...
And if we do answer your question on the show, you get an 8x12. Come on, Brendan.
And if Cameron answers your question to your satisfaction, or even if he doesn't answer,
I don't think there's a satisfaction policy on it.
Bad luck. You're getting an 8x12 print of Cameron's.
Yeah.
So Kerry, hit Cam up, and he's going to send you something nice.
I've got a couple to send out now, so
he gets to choose too.
Yeah, I just choose whatever. I might even send one of these ones out.
Sure.
Because they're so easy to do, these aerials. Just watch our subscription go tick, 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 tick.
I know.
Sorry, mate. The show was going good until I opened my mouth.
What have you got coming up, Cameron?
Absolutely jack shit.
Good boy.
Sitting at home resting for the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
Well, I've got nothing much on. I've got to go to the gallery at Richmond. Speaking of gallery, I've got to take out those canvases that you did for me. So I might do that tomorrow.
Check out Cam's Instagram when he puts those canvases up. They came up really well. I'm assuming you're going to put them up on Insta or somewhere.
I assume I will now.
Yeah. They did come up really well.
Thank you.
I like them both, but I think the Cradle Mount one was my favorite.
That's interesting because that Gumtree one is probably one of my best selling prints.
Isn't that funny?
So, but closely followed by the Cradle Mountain one.
But remember, we don't sell prints to photographers.
No, we don't. So I got that on, and then a bit of family time actually. So
good.
Looking forward to that. My little boy Jamison and I are going to camp out in the backyard on the weekend because he wants to go camping. He wants a boys' weekend away, and I'm not doing anything now until next month, where I've got a few of the Olympus days, and then we sort of kick off again late July, early August off to Cradle Mountain for a winter one, and then we're back up to the Flinders in September. So a nice couple of weeks of just catching up on things.
Will you come to Ocean Grove every time you go to the Fliners Ranges?
I reckon I will. What do you reckon? We almost did. We almost came back that way. We were almost going to come back along the Great Ocean Road and pop up and say good day. But we might next time.
Yes.
But I reckon next time I come to Ocean Grove, I won't be coming to the same shop. Is that correct?
So that is right. As I gave a sneak preview to last week. Did I mention it last week? Probably.
I think you did.
I'm relocating our Ocean Grove store after 9 years in the same location. It is time to move for various reasons, but the main one being it'll give me a bit of a shake-up. I've got a bit of a blank canvas at the new shop that I can throw my stuff into, and it's definitely a better location, isn't it, Cam?
Yeah, I think it's exciting to have a fresh location. I think you're going to get a lot more foot traffic past there as well.
No question, there will be a lot more foot traffic. So
speaking of the overland track and getting fit for it, you are now 2 doors up from Baker's Delight.
And 2 doors the other way from the bottle shop.
And right next door to F45 Fitness.
They're upstairs.
Are they? So you got no excuse, really. You'll either be drunk, fat, or fit.
I don't know what's going to happen there. But looking forward to getting my teeth into the move. So we get the keys tomorrow, but it'll be about 3 weeks before the shop will be ready to go.
Yeah, looks good though. Like I said, nice big walls to fill up, and it's a bigger footprint than the old shop.
Slightly bigger, more storage space, bigger. I'm going to set it up so I've got one dedicated wall for a gallery, basically. So that'll be cool. It's good. The great thing is it's basically everything that I've already got gets transplanted to the new shop. So there's not a lot of, new stuff to buy or money to outlay. It's all just coming with me. So
will the big printers go out the back room, or are you going to keep them out the front?
That's a very good question. And
I reckon out the back would be good, wouldn't it?
Once I set it up, the whole shop, I will do a podcast from the new space.
Ooh, grand opening podcast.
Why not? Grand moving podcast.
Grand moving new thing.
Don't forget about sorry, you go.
I was going to say, I know at the top of the show I said don't worry about it, but I can't help myself.
I know.
Because I know I can already feel the pressure breathing on the back of my neck that we haven't mentioned Chelsea.
Hello,
G'day, Chelsea. Again, at Chel May Bell for those who want to check her work out. But I just know if we don't, I said to Brendan, I said it's getting old and we've got to stop it. But I can already feel the text messages coming through that.
Maybe she wants to win a camera.
She might. She's an Olympus user, so I doubt it.
Nikon D5100. Oh, she can sell it on eBay. Don't you dare.
You know what was good about the workshop I just did at Fliners Ranges?
Yes, there was lots of Nikons.
There was 2 Nikons, the Canon, Olympus, and maybe another Canon. It was a good mix.
Yeah.
You know what I haven't had on my workshop for a long, long time though? A Sony user.
Sony. I was just about to say a Sony.
But they're probably the market leader, and I just don't have many on there. I don't know why that is.
Maybe their cameras are so awesome they don't have to do workshops.
Or maybe I hang shit on them so much they're like, I'm not going with that guy.
Yeah, I'm not going with him. He hates Sony.
I'm getting a bit of Canon backlash as well, so I'm going to start treating Canon a bit nicer. So.
All right, that's been episode. Where are we up to? That's been episode 44.
Johnny Platten.
We will. No one listens this far. I know they don't. The stats show that no one.
Really?
We can say whatever we wanted to right now.
I'm going to give away $10,000 to anyone.
Careful.
To anyone that can tell me how many shots.
How many fingers am I holding up?
If anyone can tell me to the actual number how many shots I took at my Fliners Ranges workshop, I'll give you $10,000 cash.
How many guesses are they allowed to have?
None.
Yeah. Perfect.
Remember,
one
guess.
Folks, there's always fine print.
Yes, there is.
All right, great. We will see you for episode 45 of the Down South Photo Show next week. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.